next witness is witness number 255. His testimony appears at page 460 in your bundle. Good afternoon. Mr. Chairman will now swear you in.
Mr. Witness, thank you for agreeing to testify. Would you repeat after me, please? I solemnly declare that I will speak the truth.
I solemnly declare to tell the truth.
Nothing but the truth.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Thank you. If you wait there, there'll be some questions from counsel, followed by questions from the panel.
Thank you. The witness participated in demonstrations on 17th and 18th of November. He was injured on 17th November and arrested, but managed to escape. He was again arrested on 18th and detained for 18 days. He was tortured and is suffering from physical and psychological damage inflicted during his detention. Mr. Witness, can you please explain the events of 17 November that you witnessed? The tribunal has received your full statement and we are grateful for that. Please therefore only briefly refer to the highlights. You have 10 minutes.
Yes, on the 25th of Aban, the 16th of November, I was going from a small city towards a big city, and I saw that the windows were broken along the way, and they said that it was done by the police force. And from that point, when we were moving towards the city, you could see that people, by way of protest, had turned off their cars. And when you would enter the city, you would see that the people from forces from the special units, both in military clothing and the Basij in their own clothing, and the anti-riot people in their own clothing, they were there and they had their own weapons, if they recognize it correctly.
اعتراضشون رو مردم داشت.
People were expressing their protest towards the rise in the prices of petrol, and they were beating people up with their batons. I saw a mother and a small child who wanted to ask the officials whether they could leave the circle that was there and go out. They hit her and they beat also the child. There were also people on the ground with torn clothes. They also saw people with blood on their faces. I saw that the people from the special unit were also shooting in the air. They were in black clothes, and I saw one of them that knelt down and shot. It was not shooting in the air, but I did not see who the target was. After a while, those in plain clothes entered the the scene, and usually they are on their motorcycles. They also have all kinds of weapons on their waist. That's to say, they have batons, the batons which are also equipped with the screws and bolts and those things, so that when they hit somebody, even the damage is greater. And they are very cruel. I can give you an example. There was a young man who was there, and I saw that they hit him so hard on his face that his glasses flew away. He was, of course, injured. They did not allow any ambulances to come in. And of course, I was also hit on my face, my shoulder, my back. I was hit with the truncheon, and there was lots of shooting, and in my view, all the shootings were not in the air, because you could tell when they shoot in the air, the noise is different. The distance of the officials with us was only 60 or 70 meters, and also you could see the police force. There were lots of them. Therefore, they had a lot of more force and power than we did. And although I was wounded, I reached Shiraz Gate, and we were approaching the evening, and over there you could see a lot of the forces. You could see forces from the special unit. They had truncheons, they had tear gases, and over there, I saw a young man and a young woman who were walking on the bridge, and perhaps they wanted to record everything through their mobile phone, and they were badly beaten. I saw that their faces were blood-stained, and I thought that they were almost unconscious. There was a melee there. There was a lot of shooting in the air, and because it was dark by now, I had something personal to do. I went towards the house, but in the street that would go towards Isfahan, I saw that on the rooftops of the Basij building, the students, I saw that there was an official who was installing filming equipment, and I'm sure it was filming equipment. And I went back home, and the next day I came out with somebody I knew around 1 or 2 o'clock, and in the Revolutionary Square, she told me that an official clad in black, he was from the anti-riot unit, who is installing a long pipe over there. And I thought it would be a shooting equipment. And also on the Siosepol, in this one we saw that they were installing filming equipment. Zayanderud, the river, the big river, unfortunately has gone dry. And because of the wrong policies of the government, it was dry also then. And therefore, people were gathering there to protest. And of course, they were surrounded by the officials, and once again, this special unit and the other officials who were both armed, and also they had shields, came and surrounded them. Over there, I saw a young person was shot in his left shoulder without us hearing any shooting. We did not hear any shooting. He fell down, and therefore I believe that because this hole in his left shoulder was very big, I think that he was shot through a sniper with one shot, because if they had been on the ground to shoot him, people around him should have been shot too, because he was in the middle of the crowd. But it was only this particular person who was targeted. His left shoulder was targeted, and he was shot. there were a lot of shootings, and we could see that they were shooting people either in a sitting position, a standing position. We could see the special unit shooting people. If I want to tell you what happened there, it will be a lot. I saw a man who all of a sudden bent over on his stomach after we heard a loud noise. I did not see him fall down because the crowd was surrounding him, but I saw somebody else who was shot and fell on the ground. I don't know what happened to him afterwards. And from the slogans that people were giving, and they were saying, I am going to kill, I'm going to kill, who killed my brother, I am pretty sure that he was also shot. And once again, I was hit in my face, and I was wounded the same place that I was wounded the day before. And although there was a big crowd there, I could retreat, but I think that I had a temporary blackout because of I was struck in my head very hard. And I also have to say that there were lots of wounded people on the ground. Before I lost consciousness, I saw two people who were definitely minors. One was a girl between the ages of 13 and 14, and there was a boy, and he was he not even had grown a beard, and he was one of those who were wounded. And they would even hit you with a shield if they would use a truncheon first on you and then hit you with the shield, and that would cause lots of bruises or cuts and laceration on your faces. And then when I regained consciousness, it was in a car. I was handcuffed, and because the crowd invaded this car, I was rescued. Everybody who was there almost was arrested afterwards, and the officials, they would just drag them and push them into vehicles that would take them away. After the onrush of the crowd, and because I was not able to protest anymore, I left the location and went home. On the 27th of Aban, which would be 18th of November, in one of the southern locations near Isfahan, I was arrested again by the special unit because probably of the wounds that I had on my face. They gathered that I had participated in the protests during the 2 days before that. They put me in a vehicle with 3 or 4 other people, girls and boys, and without even asking me what I had done, they encountered me in a very obscene and insulting way. And as I have said in my written testimony, and I have sent it to you, and I'm not going to repeat here because of security reasons, they took me to a detention center. There were 17 or 18 other people, and among them there were minors, less than 18 years old. They were insulted. We were beaten, and they took me to another place without anybody else being with me. I was alone, and they kept me for 18 days in solitary confinement. And from a sanitary point of view, it was an awful place. That's to say, the same place that you drank water. I'm so sorry to have to say it. You also had to perform your other bodily functions. As far as air circulation was concerned, it was awful. The food was awful. There were no treatment services to cure the wounds of my face. Every day I was interrogated. The interrogators would change, and during these interrogations I was accused of spying for the United States, for Israel, and that there was no place for me in the country. I had to leave, and that my charge was apostasy, and if I do not confess to what they were saying, my whole family would be harassed. They prevented me from sleeping. I had other psychological torture that was inflicted on me. One of them was that they would make a cloth wet, the thin cloth wet, and they would strip me naked, and they would beat me up, they would whip me with the wet cloth, and the thicker cloth would leave traces and scars on you. My left eye is not right now, and it causes me a lot of severe headaches that could become permanent. Another torture is the worst one for me, and this is something that I would like to share with you, with this tribunal, and I want you to especially take into consideration this torture that I am going to tell you about. And anything that I tell you, you can verify for yourselves through medical experts. What they did to me was that they would handcuff me and put cuffs also on my ankles, and they would put me on a chair in a way that I would not be able to move without having my trousers or a shirt, and would put these kinds of cloth that I talked to you about on my knees. They would make them wet, and then they would put a hot iron on it. And they would tell me that this is your opportunity to say whatever you have, otherwise we are going to increase the heat. And although I knew that the electricity could not electrify me, and it is not going to burn me, but it would instill such fear in me, because when they would turn it high up, the wet cloth would little by little get hotter and hotter. The water in it would boil, and it would burn you on your skin. It's not one or two places on my skin. Lots of places have been burned. I have given the evidence for it. They, of course, would threaten you to sexual rape. They did not do it, but they threatened me with it. And there are lots of other things that I could tell you, but I have talked only about these. And if regarding what I said, you want to ask me other things, I would answer them. And because of the reason that I have said in my testimony, in my written testimony, I cannot talk about other things because of security reasons. But in any event, at the end, I was released.
Thank you. Were you forced to sign a confession?
Yes. Unfortunately, I forgot to mention this. I was told that if I wanted to see my family, I had to sign certain papers. They didn't even allow me to read them. I just signed them, unfortunately. I think, of course, it had nothing to do with seeing my family. I believe that it was some form of forced compassion.
Thank you very much. No further question from counsel. The tribunal will have questions for you.
I just have one question for you, Mr. Witness. Did you file a complaint of any description after your experience, your arrest, and the ill treatment you suffered?
No. If you had lived in Iran, you would have known that such a complaint would have no use. It will even cause to further trouble. If you refer to my witness statement and see how I was released, you will realize why I preferred not to file any complaint.
Can I just ask, and I appreciate this is a delicate area because it risks identifying you, but it's not clear from your statement, and I don't want you to mention who did what, but how were you released? Don't mention who facilitated it, but was money paid? Did you know somebody? How was it that you were released?
از طریق
I was released because of the influence that one of our our friends had.
Okay, so your friend knew someone and was able to use that personal contact to essentially get a favor. Is that a fair way of putting it?
دقیقاً
Exactly. That's exactly correct.
Thank you. I think nothing else from the panel, Council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. No more questions.
Mr. Witness, thank you very much for testifying. We appreciate the effort you've made,
سپاسگزارم
especially with these subjects, which are very difficult. So thank you very much.